The Dallas flight, already delayed by 3 excruciating hours, finally touched down, its tires squealing a mournful protest against the tarmac. Exhaustion clung to my 63-year-old bones like a shroud, but beneath it, a triumphant elation simmered. I had done it. I had secured the biggest contract of my career, solidifying our family's future, ensuring a comfortable legacy for Charles and our children. The negotiations had been brutal, stretching my patience and resolve to their limits. But the victory felt sweet, a tangible reward for decades of relentless effort. All I wanted was to get home, to fall into Charles's arms, to uncork the celebratory bottle of Cabernet we had saved for just such an occasion, and share the good news with him and Martha, our indispensable caregiver. But as the taxi pulled up to our familiar Victorian home, a prickle of unease snaked its way up my spine. The house, usually a beacon of warmth and activity, stood unnervingly quiet. No soft glow spilled from the living room windows. No familiar melody drifted from Charles's beloved jazz collection. No murmur of Martha's gentle voice as she moved about. It was too still, too silent. A heavy, unsettling quiet hung in the twilight air, a premonition of something profoundly amiss. My fingers, usually nimble, fumbled with the key in the lock. The click echoed in the silence, startlingly loud. "Charles, Martha?" My voice, hoarse from travel and growing apprehension, bounced off the polished wood floors of the entryway. No answer, just the hollow echo, amplified by the vacuum of sound. I moved through the foyer, past the grand staircase, into the living room, expecting to find Charles in his favorite armchair, perhaps dozing or Martha tidying up after his evening meal. But the room was pristine, sterile almost. The cushions were plumped to perfection, the magazines stacked in neat, unread piles, the coffee table gleaming, devoid of Charles's usual haphazard array of glasses and books. It felt less like our lived-in home and more like a show house, stripped of its soul. A soft rustle from above drew my gaze. Serena, my daughter-in-law, descended the stairs, her movements graceful, almost ethereal. A saccharine smile, too wide, too bright, stretched across her lips. "Eleanor, you're back! How was your trip?" Her voice was honeyed, but something in her eyes, a predatory glint, set my teeth on edge. My weariness was momentarily forgotten, replaced by a surge of urgency. "Serena, where's Martha? Is Charles all right?" Her smile didn't waver. "Oh, Martha, well, I had to let her go, Eleanor. The expenses were simply astronomical, and honestly, Colin and I were managing just fine." She smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from her designer blouse, her nonchalance infuriating. My stomach dropped, a cold, leaden weight. Martha, dismissed. Martha, who had been more than an employee. She was family. She had nursed Charles back to health after his heart attack. Her gentle patience and unwavering dedication, a godsend. She understood his moods, anticipated his needs, and genuinely cared for him with a tenderness that rivaled my own. How could Serena, who barely tolerated Charles's occasional fumbling, possibly manage? "You had no right," I said, my voice dangerously low. "Martha is indispensable. You don't have the authority to make such a decision, Serena." She tilted her head, her expression one of feigned innocence. But Lucas agreed it was best. And darling, as family, I can care for Charles better than any hired help. Don't you think? Her gaze lingered on me, challenging, calculating. I suppressed a shiver. Serena, Lucas's wife, 15 years his junior, weedless, and with an insatiable curiosity about our financial statements. I had never trusted her. Her sweetness felt like a fade, a thin veil over something much darker. Her sudden intense interest in Charles's care, especially after his last will review, felt too convenient. "I want to see Charles," I demanded, moving toward the stairs. "He's resting upstairs," she said, her voice a little too quick, a little too casual. "He's been more confused than usual today. Perhaps you should let him sleep." My heart hammered against my ribs. More confused? A fresh wave of fear washed over me. I brushed past her, taking the stairs 2 at a time, my exhaustion forgotten. The door to our bedroom was slightly ajar. I pushed it open gently, the soft light from the bedside lamp casting long shadows. Charles lay in bed, pale and frail, his eyes closed. My breath caught in my throat. He looked smaller, more vulnerable than I remembered. "Charles," I whispered, moving to his side, taking his cool, papery hand in mine. His eyes fluttered open, slow and clouded, before focusing on me. A spark of recognition, then a wave of profound relief washed over his face. "Eleanor," he breathed, his voice a faint rasp. "You're back." "Yes, my love. I'm here." I kissed his forehead, my heart aching. "How are you feeling?" His grip on my hand tightened, surprisingly strong. His eyes darted towards the door, then back to mine, wide with a quiet desperation. "Where's Martha? She wouldn't leave. She promised me she'd always be here. They said she was just getting groceries, but she's been gone so long." Before I could answer, Serena appeared in the doorway, her smile back in place. "Everything all right in here, Charles? I thought I heard voices. Can I get you anything, Eleanor? A nice warm dinner after your long flight?" I forced a smile, my insides churning. "No, thank you, Serena. I'm fine." Charles's eyes were fixed on me, a desperate plea in their depths. He leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper, a chilling confession that shattered my composure. "Don't accept anything from her, Eleanor. Anything. She's been changing my medications. She wants our $4 million. She's trying to make me worse." Charles's whispered words hung in the air, a venomous cloud suffocating the last vestiges of my weary hope. "She's been changing my medications. She wants our $4 million. She's trying to make me worse." My heart, already a fragile bird fluttering in a cage, hammered against my ribs, each beat a frantic drum signaling danger. Could it be true? Could my own daughter-in-law, the wife of my son, be capable of such calculated malice? The thought was an icy claw twisting in my gut. "Are you sure, Charles?" I managed to choke out, my voice barely a thread. "About the medications?" He nodded grimly, his gaze piercing mine, a flicker of his old sharp intellect cutting through the fog of his illness. "I've been pretending, Eleanor. Pretending to be more confused than I am. She thinks I don't notice. But the pills, they're different, and I feel weaker. Like my mind is slipping away faster than it should." His words were delivered with a chilling clarity that belied his fragile appearance. The implication was staggering. My husband, weakened by a recent heart attack, was fighting for his mind, perhaps even his life, against someone who should have been his protector. Just then, Serena's voice, artificially bright, floated up the stairs. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes, you two. Hope you're hungry, Charles. It's your favorite." Charles's eyes widened, a raw, primal fear flashing in their depths. His grip on my hand tightened, a silent plea. In that instant, the terrifying reality solidified. If Charles was right, if Serena was indeed poisoning him, then we were both in grave danger. My triumphant return had plunged me into a nightmare. I squeezed his hand, a silent promise of protection, a vow to uncover the truth. The next morning, I woke before dawn, haunted by Charles's warning. Sleep had offered no respite, only fragmented images of Serena's saccharine smile overlaid with Charles's look of terror. I slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb him. He was still asleep, his breathing shallow, his face gaunt. In the dim light, I noticed the sharp angles of his cheekbones, the hollows beneath his eyes. He had lost weight, too much weight. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath his eyes, a stark contrast to the vibrant man I'd left just a week ago. Downstairs, the house was still silent, but a faint aroma of coffee beckoned. I went to the kitchen, seeking the comfort of a familiar ritual. As I started the coffee maker, its whirring sound a welcome break in the oppressive silence, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Serena, already perfectly put together, her blonde hair immaculate, her silk robe hinting at expensive lace beneath. She looked as if she had stepped off the pages of a fashion magazine, not just woken up. "Good morning, Eleanor," she chirped, her voice too cheerful for the hour. "Couldn't sleep? I was just about to make breakfast. No need for you to worry. I've got everything handled." She moved with an unnerving confidence, opening cabinets as if she owned them, her slender hands reaching for pots and pans. It was a subtle gesture, but it grated on my nerves. This was my kitchen, my home. "I'll make Charles his favorite oatmeal," she announced, pulling out a bag of oats, with a generous swirl of honey. "He just loves it." My stomach clenched. Charles had mentioned strange-tasting oatmeal. The innocent words now carried a sinister weight. I forced a casual tone. Serena, could you remind me where Charles's medication schedule is kept? I just want to cross-reference it with his new doctor's notes. She paused, her back to me as she filled a pot with water. Oh, that's all organized. It's in my room, all tidied up. No need for you to bother with it, darling. I've got it all under control. Her refusal was too quick, too dismissive. It confirmed my growing suspicion. I watched her prepare breakfast, a mask of feigned normalcy plastered on my face. She moved with an easy grace, humming a light tune, the picture of an attentive, caring daughter-in-law. It was a stark, horrifying contrast to Charles's words, a testament to her insidious deceit. Just as the aroma of brewing coffee and simmering oatmeal filled the kitchen, the front door opened, and Lucas, my son, walked in. He looked tired, his usual morning cheer subdued. He saw Serena, and his face softened. Morning, darling. Everything all right here? He came into the kitchen, kissing Serena's cheek. You're amazing, Serena. Up at the crack of dawn, making breakfast for everyone. My mother's just returned, exhausted, and you're already taking care of everything. There was a defensive quality in his praise, a subtle edge that hinted at Serena's manipulative influence over him. He wasn't seeing her, he was seeing the perfect image she projected. I seized the opportunity. Lucas, Serena mentioned Charles saw Dr. Morrison while I was away. I don't recall him having appointments with anyone other than Dr. Ellis. Is everything okay? Lucas frowned, rubbing his temples. Oh, right. Yes. Dr. Ellis was unavailable, I think. Charles was quite agitated last Thursday. Serena said he was confused and difficult, so she called around and found Dr. Morrison. He's supposed to be an expert in geriatric care. He adjusted Charles's heart and cognitive medications, said they might be too strong. Too strong? The pieces clicked into place. If the medications were too strong, adjusting them could be a legitimate concern. But if Serena was tampering with them, substituting them, or giving him something else entirely, then this doctor. Morrison was a convenient fiction, a plausible cover for her treachery. I excused myself, claiming I needed to check on Charles. Upstairs, I found him staring out the window, a lost look on his face. Charles, I said gently, touching his shoulder. Tell me about Dr. Morrison. Do you remember seeing him on Thursday? He turned, his eyes still clouded. Dr. Morrison? No, I don't remember a doctor. Only Serena. She brought me some oatmeal. It tasted strange, like it had something bitter in it, hidden by all the honey. And then she gave me new pills, said they were better for me. They were white and round, not my usual blue and oval ones. He shuddered. And she was in the study, Eleanor, going through all our financial documents, our statements, the deeds to the properties. She asked me questions I didn't understand. The blood drained from my face. This was no accident, no well-intentioned mistake. This was deliberate, calculated. Serena was poisoning my husband, slowly but surely, with Lucas unwittingly manipulated into becoming her accomplice. The $4 million, our life savings, our legacy, it was all she cared about. My anger, a cold, hard stone, solidified in my chest. I would not let her win. I went back downstairs, my face carefully neutral. I adopted a mask of normalcy, a facade of calm. I would watch her. I would document everything. And when the time was right, I would expose her. The next 3 days passed in a tense, silent dance of deception. Eleanor and Charles maintained their carefully constructed facade, their every interaction with Serena a performance. Charles, with remarkable resilience, played the part of the increasingly confused and frail invalid, his disorientation subtly more pronounced each day. Eleanor, on her part, became the concerned wife, observing Serena with a hawk's eye, storing every detail, every suspicious glance, every dismissive comment into the meticulous ledger of her mind. Serena, blissfully unaware, reveled in her newfound control. Her routine was relentless. Charles's breakfast oatmeal, thick and sweet, was served precisely at 8, her eyes gleaming with a disturbing satisfaction as she watched him consume it. She had completely taken over the household, intercepting phone calls, sifting through the mail, and even unilaterally canceling Charles's long-standing weekly poker games with his friends, citing his delicate health and need for absolute quiet. Her grip tightened with each passing hour, suffocating their lives. Thursday afternoon brought Lucas for his usual visit, a brief check-in that always seemed to leave him more reassured about Serena's capabilities than concerned about his father's condition. While Lucas was distracted, animatedly discussing some trivial office matter with Serena in the living room, Eleanor seized her chance. "Excuse me," she announced, her voice calm despite the frantic pounding of her heart. "I just need to use the restroom." But instead of turning left towards the powder room, she veered right, her footsteps light and purposeful, slipping into her study. The air in the room was stale, a silent testament to its recent violation. Her eyes immediately darted to her antique mahogany desk. It was disturbed. A stack of papers, usually aligned with architectural precision, was askew. Her gaze then fell to the bottom drawer, which she always kept locked, housing their most critical financial documents. It was now ajar, the key, which she had meticulously hidden, nowhere in sight. A cold wave of dread washed over her. Her hands trembled as she pulled the drawer open fully. Empty, the polished wood mocked her. Their investment portfolio, painstakingly built over decades. Their life insurance policies, the deed to the beloved lake house that had been a cherished family retreat for generations, all gone. Her heart plunged into her stomach. And then she saw it, tucked almost carelessly beneath a stack of old magazines on the corner of the desk, as if it had been discarded in haste. A business card. Jenkins and Associates, estate planning attorneys. Below the name in smaller print, a chilling specialty, specializing in expedited asset transfers in elder estate management. The hairs on her arms stood on end. Expedited asset transfers. The phrase echoed Charles's warning. She wants our $4 million. Her fingers flew across her phone, the Google search engine her silent confidant. Jenkins and Associates reviews. The results flashed on the screen, a litany of complaints, accusations of predatory practices, of assisting in dubious transfers of wealth from vulnerable elderly clients. Shady, indeed. Just then, Serena's voice, sharp and inquiring, cut through the quiet. "Eleanor, is everything all right in there? You've been quite a while." Eleanor quickly slipped the business card into her pocket, composing herself. "Oh yes, darling, just looking for my reading glasses. Can't seem to find them anywhere." She emerged, forcing a bright smile, her heart a frantic drumbeat beneath her ribs. In the kitchen, the aroma of Serena's latest culinary experiment wafted through the air. A thick, greenish soup simmered on the stove, emanating an unsettling, almost chemical odor. "Charles, my love," Serena cooed, ladling a generous portion into a bowl. "I made you a special nutrient-rich broth. It'll make you strong." Charles, who had been brought downstairs, sat at the table looking paler than usual. He cast a terrified glance at the bowl. He raised the spoon, taking a few reluctant bites. As the soup went down, his face grew paler still. His hands began to tremble, a fine sheen of sweat breaking out on his forehead. I think I need to rest," he mumbled, his voice weak. "I don't feel well." Serena was instantly at his side, her performance flawless. "Oh, my poor Charles. You see, Eleanor? He needs more care, not less. This is precisely why Martha was an unnecessary expense." She helped him up, guiding him with an exaggerated show of concern, leading him slowly towards the stairs. Over her shoulder, Charles's eyes met Eleanor's. The look he gave her was pure, unadulterated terror. That evening, with the bedroom door finally locked and the world outside muted, Charles collapsed onto the bed, his voice hoarse with fear. "She's going to kill me, Eleanor. Slowly. With her damned nutritious meals and these new pills." Eleanor pulled out the business card, laying it on the bedside table between them. "And this," she said, her voice tight with suppressed fury, "is how she plans to take everything we've worked for." Charles looked at the card, his eyes widening. "Jenkins and Associates. I heard her on the phone talking to someone about asset protection and expedited transfers. She wants to liquidate everything, our savings, the lake house, all of it. The full horror of Serena's scheme was now laid bare. They were not dealing with a greedy woman, but a cold, calculating predator. "We need proof, Charles," Eleanor said, her voice firm. "Irrefutable proof." They spoke in low tones, a desperate conspiracy. Charles, despite his physical fragility, possessed a remarkable clarity of mind when it came to their survival. "I'll worsen," he said, his voice resolute. "I'll play up the confusion, the weakness. Make her complacent, make her careless, she'll grow bolder. And that's when we strike." Eleanor's heart ached at the thought of Charles enduring more torment, but she saw the grim logic in his plan. It was risky, deeply dangerous, but it might be their only way out. "It's a dangerous game, my love," she whispered, stroking his hand. He squeezed her hand. "We can't do this alone, Eleanor. We need allies, someone we can trust implicitly." The morning after their desperate late-night conversation, Eleanor rose with a singular, resolute purpose. Charles had voiced the need for allies, and the first person who came to mind was Martha. Her loyalty had always been unquestionable, her care for Charles genuine. Eleanor reached for her phone, dialing Martha's familiar number. It rang once, twice, then clicked to an automated message. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." A cold knot formed in Eleanor's stomach. Serena had not only fired Martha, but had clearly gone to great lengths to sever her ties completely. Undeterred, Eleanor began calling through her network of mutual acquaintances, Charles's golf buddies, women from her book club who knew Martha from various community events, even the dry cleaner Martha frequented. It took 2 hours, a flurry of increasingly urgent calls, but finally a faint lead emerged. Martha, a kind woman from Eleanor's bridge club mentioned, had moved in with her sister in a quiet suburb a few towns over. With renewed hope, Eleanor dialed the number provided, and this time, after several rings, a familiar, gentle voice answered. "Martha, it's Eleanor. I need to speak with you." There was a moment of stunned silence, then a hesitant, "Mrs. Vance, is everything all right? I've been so worried about Mr. Vance." Eleanor explained the situation, omitting Charles's most chilling accusations for now, focusing on Serena's abrupt dismissal and Charles's rapid decline. Martha, her voice tinged with both relief and a simmering resentment, confirmed Eleanor's suspicions. "Serena told me you no longer needed my services, Mrs. Vance," Martha explained, her voice trembling slightly. "She said you wanted to take a more active role in Mr. Vance's care, and that I was an unnecessary expense. She made it sound like you didn't want to bother to buy me anymore." The callousness of Serena's lie twisted Eleanor's gut, but Martha's next revelation sent a jolt of icy terror through her. "Mrs. Vance, the day before Serena fired me, I saw something that didn't sit right with me. I was tidying up the bedside table and I saw Serena with Mr. Vance's pill organizer. She was taking his blue oval heart medication out of the dispenser and putting them into a different bottle. Then she replaced them with smaller, round white pills. I asked her what she was doing, and she just snapped at me, said they were new improved medications Dr. Morrison prescribed. She told me to mind my own business." Eleanor felt a wave of nausea. Charles's words, his frantic whispers about Serena changing his medications, about the white, round pills, were horrifyingly confirmed. "Did you try to contact anyone, Martha?" Eleanor asked, her voice tight with suppressed emotion. "I tried to call you, Mrs. Vance, but my calls wouldn't go through. And when I tried Lucas," Serena answered. "She said Mr. Vance was resting and couldn't be disturbed, and that I was harassing the family. She was very firm. I was scared, Mrs. Vance. I didn't know what to do." Eleanor's worst fears had been realized. Serena wasn't just adjusting medications, she was actively substituting life-saving heart medication with something else entirely, systematically poisoning her husband. The motive was clear, brutal, and utterly monstrous. That night, Eleanor and Charles finalized their perilous plan. Charles would accelerate his performance, rapidly deteriorating, becoming visibly more confused and frail. The goal was to make Serena overconfident, to make her careless, believing she was close to achieving her objective. In parallel, Eleanor would install hidden cameras. What if she goes too far, Eleanor?" Charles whispered, a tremor in his voice, the reality of the danger pressing in on him. "What if I don't come back from this?" Eleanor held his hand, her gaze fierce. I won't let that happen, my love. I swear to you, I will protect you. The vow was not just for him, but for herself. She wouldn't lose him to this viper. The next morning, Charles began his dangerous performance at breakfast. Serena, humming cheerfully, placed the oatmeal in front of him. As he reached for his coffee, his hand slipped, sending a cascade of dark liquid across the pristine white tablecloth. He stared at it, wide-eyed, a blank, bewildered expression on his face. Oh dear, he mumbled, sounding genuinely confused. What happened? Serena's mask of concern was expertly applied, but Eleanor saw the faint gleam of satisfaction in her eyes. Oh, Charles, dear, you're just a little confused this morning. Perhaps we should call Dr. Morrison again. He can adjust your new medication dose. Charles played along, shaking his head slowly. No doctor. Just tired. Need to rest. He pushed away his oatmeal. Eleanor watched Serena's barely concealed excitement at his evident decline. The plan was working, but at what cost? 2 days later, a discreet package addressed to Eleanor's office arrived disguised as a flower delivery. Inside were 3 tiny, state-of-the-art cameras, no bigger than a thumbnail, equipped with motion sensors and long-lasting batteries. Eleanor had researched them extensively, ordering them from a specialized security firm that guaranteed discretion. Her window of opportunity came during Serena's regular grocery runs, Tuesdays and Thursdays, when she was reliably gone for 90 minutes. On the first Tuesday, Eleanor acted with a speed and precision she hadn't known she possessed. Charles, despite his feigned confusion, helped keep watch, his eyes sharp, his mind fully engaged. As Serena's car pulled out of the driveway, Eleanor sprang into action. The first microscopic device went into the kitchen, embedded invisibly into the underside of a cabinet shelf overlooking the counter where Charles's meals were prepared. The second, in Charles's bathroom, was cleverly tucked into the vent fan. The third, and most crucial, was placed in the study, a tiny lens peeking out from behind a book on the shelf, aimed at the desk where Serena had rummaged through their documents. Her hands, usually so steady, trembled as she secured the last device. Will it work, Eleanor? Charles whispered, his voice raspy as she returned to their bedroom. Will they capture it? Eleanor, privately terrified, squeezed his hand. It has to, my love. It has to. If you've been gripped by Eleanor's fight to save Charles and expose the truth, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to follow this twisting tale to its dramatic conclusion. Over the next week, the air in our home grew thick with unspoken anxieties and carefully constructed deceptions. Charles's deterioration, though largely an elaborate act, became terrifyingly convincing. He'd forget words mid-sentence, his gaze would drift to a distant, unfocused point, and he'd stumble occasionally, catching himself just before a fall. He'd leave his coffee unfinished, staring blankly at the cup as if it were an alien object. Each instance, each performance, was a fresh stab to my heart. Watching him, knowing how much this charade cost him, how close it brought him to the very real danger of his condition, was the hardest part. Every confused utterance was a lie that chipped away at his spirit. Every feigned stumble, a calculated risk to his already fragile body. Serena, however, blossomed in this atmosphere of manufactured decline. Her confidence soared, turning her sweetness into a cloying proprietary control. She answered the house phone with an air of authority, telling callers Charles was resting and unavailable, her voice dripping with sympathetic concern. She rearranged furniture in the living room, claiming it was for better flow for Charles, but really it was about making her mark, asserting her ownership. She even replaced Charles's favorite hand-painted ceramic coffee mugs with a set of sleek modern ones, a subtle erasure of our personal touches. And most galling of all, I caught her wearing my pearl necklace, the one Charles had given me for our 30th anniversary, casually draped around her neck as if it were her own costume jewelry. Then Lucas visited, a worried frown etched on his brow. He observed his father's worsening condition with a genuine concern that tugged at my heart. Mom, he said, his voice hesitant. Dad, he's really not doing well. Serena tells me he's having trouble remembering things, even getting out of bed. Maybe it's time we considered a facility, a place with professional medical staff, round-the-clock care, It might be for the best. My blood ran cold. A facility. That was Serena's ultimate goal, I knew it. Get Charles away from me, away from any chance of recovery, isolated and vulnerable. It would be a death sentence. No, Lucas, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. Charles is staying here. This is his home. I can care for him. Lucas sighed, taking on a patronizing tone that infuriated me. Mom, you work so much. You're always traveling. Serena sees things you don't. She's been so dedicated, tirelessly caring for him. She's right. Dad needs constant, expert supervision now. More than any one person can provide at home. He was utterly blind, completely manipulated by her performance. I wanted to scream the truth, to rip off the mask of composure and expose Serena for the monster she was. But the words caught in my throat. I needed proof, irrefutable, undeniable proof. I need to think about it, Lucas, I managed to say, forcing myself to project an image of weary capitulation. He nodded, seemingly satisfied that I was at least considering his suggestion, and left, leaving me alone with my simmering rage and a terrifying sense of urgency. That night, after Charles was asleep and Serena had retired to her room, I retrieved the laptop connected to the hidden cameras. My hands shook as I navigated the interface, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I started with the kitchen camera, fast-forwarding through hours of mundane activity, Serena washing dishes, talking on her phone, and humming. Then it happened. The timestamp read 8:05 a.m. Serena, her back to the camera, was preparing Charles's oatmeal. But before adding the honey, she reached into her pocket, pulling out a small, amber-colored vial. With meticulous precision, she emptied in a few tiny, almost invisible pills into a mortar and pestle, grinding them into a fine powder. She then stirred the powder into the steaming oatmeal, the saccharine smile on her face chilling me to the bone. I switched to the bathroom camera. The footage showed Serena on Monday morning, opening Charles's old blue pill dispenser. She took out the familiar blue oval-shaped heart medication and carefully placed them in a small plastic baggie. Then, from another unmarked bottle, she poured a handful of the smaller, round, white pills, those Charles had mentioned, into the dispenser. A casual switch, a deadly deception. The study footage was next. Serena, late at night, hunched over my desk, photographing pages from our financial statements, our investment portfolio, and the deed to the lake house with her phone. The business card for Jenkins and Associates was clearly visible on the desk beside her. Then she made a series of hushed phone calls, her voice barely audible, but her expressions, her gestures, spoke volumes of clandestine dealings. But it was Thursday's footage from the kitchen that delivered the most horrifying blow. Serena was preparing the greenish soup, the one that had made Charles so dreadful. As the soup simmered, she again reached into her purse, extracting a small, clear glass vial. This time she didn't crush anything. Instead, she carefully unscrewed the cap and, with a dropper, added several drops of a clear liquid directly into Charles's bowl of soup. I zoomed in, my breath catching in my throat. The label on the vial, though small, became legible. Digitalis extract. A cold wave of recognition, mixed with pure horror, washed over me. My years as a registered nurse had ingrained the name into my memory. Digitalis, a powerful cardiac glycoside used in carefully controlled doses to strengthen heart contractions. But in larger doses, or in combination with other medications, it was a deadly poison, causing heart arrhythmias, nausea, vomiting, confusion, and eventually, cardiac arrest. For Charles, with his already compromised heart, this was not just dangerous, it was a death sentence. Serena was slowly poisoning him to death. My hands flew to the phone, dialing Martha's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice still laced with worry. Martha, I whispered, barely able to speak. Tell me again. The pills Serena swapped. What did Charles's regular heart medication look like? Blue, Mrs. Vance, Martha said, her voice clear. Blue and oval. And the ones she put in were smaller, round, and white. My blood ran cold for the final time. It wasn't just some medication Serena was substituting. She was replacing Charles's life-saving heart medication with Digitalis, a poison that mimicked the symptoms of heart failure, designed to slowly, methodically kill him without leaving a trace. She was manufacturing his rapid decline, creating the perfect scenario for his demise, all while posing as his loving, dedicated caregiver. The chilling evidence from the hidden cameras played on a loop in Eleanor's mind. Serena's calculated movements, the powdered pills, the precise drops of Digitalis. Each frame was a testament to cold-blooded intent. Charles, though weakened by Serena's insidious ministrations, maintained a fierce resolve. They huddled in their locked bedroom, the laptop glowing ominously between them, discussing their next desperate steps. They both knew they couldn't wait much longer. Each passing hour was a gamble with Charles's life. "Eleanor," Charles asked, his voice low, "how long do I have?" With her experiments? Eleanor swallowed hard, her heart aching. I I don't know, my love. Digitalis can be unpredictable. Even small cumulative doses can lead to sudden cardiac arrest. The truth was a bitter pill. The central, agonizing question hung heavy in the air. What about Lucas? Their son was completely ensnared, blinded by Serena's carefully constructed facade. He saw a devoted wife, not a murderer. "We need irrefutable proof, Charles," Eleanor insisted, her voice tight with desperation. "Something he cannot possibly ignore. Something that breaks through his delusion." Charles, ever the strategist, even in his compromised state, closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them, a terrifying brilliance in their depths. "We make her show him," he said, his voice firm. "A fake heart episode, a visible, dramatic collapse. See what she does." Eleanor felt a wave of nausea. The idea was audacious, perilous, and utterly brilliant. A loving daughter-in-law would instinctively call 911, her voice choked with genuine panic. A murderer, however, would hesitate. A murderer would see an opportunity. "Charles, it's too dangerous," she whispered, her hands clammy. "What if something goes wrong? What if I continue to live in this constant fear, Eleanor?" He interrupted, his gaze piercing. "What if she succeeds anyway, slowly, invisibly? At least this way, we control the situation. We force her hand." His logic was brutal but undeniable. They were already living under a death sentence. This plan, despite its inherent risks, offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to regain control. They meticulously planned every detail. Eleanor would be out of the house, ostensibly running errands. Serena would be the sole witness to Charles's staged collapse. And crucially, the hidden cameras would be recording every agonizing second. Eleanor would return home minutes after the incident, creating a credible reason for her absence, but ensuring she wasn't too far to intervene if the situation spiraled. The day was set for the following Tuesday, during Serena's regular grocery run. However, an unexpected twist of fate intervened. Serena had, a few days earlier, suggested that Eleanor take over the grocery shopping on Tuesdays, citing her own busy schedule with doctor appointments for Charles. This was a stroke of luck, a perfect cover. Eleanor would leave, as if for groceries, giving Serena a window of opportunity, but would remain close enough to react. The morning of the operation, Eleanor walked to Charles's bedside, her heart a leaden weight in her chest. She leaned down, kissing his forehead, her lips brushing his cool skin. "I love you, my darling," she whispered, the words laced with a terrifying finality. This could truly be their last goodbye. Charles's hand reached up, his grip surprisingly strong. He looked at her, his eyes clear and resolute. "I love you too, Eleanor," he said, his voice firm. "And when this is over, we're going to have a very different conversation with our son." A silent pact, a vow of vengeance and truth. Eleanor left the house, her grocery list clutched in her hand, but instead of driving to the supermarket, she pulled into a discreet parking lot a few blocks away. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm against her ribs, each beat echoing the ticking clock of their plan. She sat, eyes fixed on her phone, awaiting the signal, praying she hadn't just sent her husband to his death. Her phone buzzed, vibrating violently against her hand. The display showed their home number. Her breath caught in her throat. This was it. She answered, forcing a calm she didn't feel. "Hello?" Serena's voice, breathless and laced with a manufactured panic, spilled through the speaker. "Eleanor, Eleanor, you need to come home right now. Something's wrong with Charles." "What happened, Serena?" Eleanor asked, her voice deliberately steady, though her hands were shaking. He just collapsed. He was in the living room and he clutched his chest and he just fell. He's barely breathing, Eleanor. Serena sounded genuinely distressed, a masterful performance. Did you call 911? Eleanor demanded, her voice rising, cutting through Serena's theatrical hysteria. There was a pause, a fraction of a second too long, a chilling silence that confirmed Eleanor's deepest fears. I wanted to call you first, Eleanor, Serena stammered, recovering quickly. You're his wife. I thought you should know immediately. Eleanor's blood ran cold. This was it. This was Serena's opportunity, her window to delay help, to ensure Charles's death looked natural. Serena, call the ambulance immediately. Eleanor's voice was sharp, cutting. Right now, I'm on my way. She slammed the phone down, her foot pressing hard on the accelerator, the car careening through the quiet suburban streets, a desperate race against time, against a murderer. The 20-minute drive home stretched into an eternity, each second a torturous tick on a doomsday clock. My heart hammered with a desperate urgency, a terrifying blend of fear for Charles and a chilling anticipation of Serena's reaction. As I screeched to a halt in the driveway, my eyes scanned for an ambulance but saw none. A fresh wave of dread washed over me. Serena hadn't even called. I burst through the front door, my breath ragged. In the living room, Serena knelt beside Charles, her hand theatrically clutching his. He was slumped against the armchair, eyes closed, his face an ashen gray. For a terrifying moment, I feared our fake heart attack had become horrifyingly real. Then, as I rushed to his side, he subtly squeezed my hand. A silent message. I'm okay. Keep playing along. Charles! I cried, my voice loud, infused with genuine terror and theatrical urgency. His eyes fluttered open, slow and confused, completing his masterful performance. Just then the wail of sirens grew louder, closer, echoing through the quiet street. I saw it then, a fleeting, almost imperceptible flicker of disappointment across Serena's face, swiftly replaced by a mask of relief. Paramedics stormed in, their efficiency a stark contrast to the domestic drama. They quickly assessed Charles, finding his vital signs stable, surprisingly strong for someone who had just collapsed. Still, given his history, they recommended hospital observation. Charles, ever the dedicated actor, maintained his dazed, disoriented demeanor throughout. At the hospital, Dr. Ellis, Charles's longtime cardiologist, was initially skeptical. Mr. Vance, your vitals are surprisingly strong for a collapse of this nature. Are you sure you're not just overly stressed, perhaps? But his demeanor shifted dramatically as I pulled out my phone, showing him the photos of the Digitalis vial, the time-stamped video of Serena crushing pills into Charles's oatmeal, and the footage of her swapping his regular blue oval medication with the smaller, round white pills. His eyes widened, his professional skepticism replaced by a grim realization. He quickly ordered a comprehensive blood panel. Mrs. Vance, Dr. Ellis said, his voice grave, Digitalis, especially in combination with Charles's existing heart medication, could have been fatal. It's a very potent drug. The symptoms you've described are consistent with Digitalis toxicity. Serena, ever the consummate actress, maintained her role as the concerned daughter-in-law, staying by Charles's bedside for hours, her hand often resting gently on his. But my observant eye caught other details. Her gaze darted to her phone obsessively, her fingers flying across the screen as she typed. She made whispered calls, stepping just outside the room, her voice low and conspiratorial. And each time Charles's condition was reported as stable, I saw a flash of raw disappointment in her eyes, quickly veiled by a sigh of feigned relief. Lucas arrived, genuinely panicked. His face etched with worry, he rushed to Charles's side, then turned to Serena, pulling her into a comforting embrace. "Oh, Serena," he murmured, stroking her hair. "Thank you for taking such good care of him. I don't know what we'd do without you." The words made me sick, a bitter taste in my mouth. Lucas insisted on staying with Charles overnight, a rare display of filial devotion. This allowed Serena to leave, her exit a choreographed display of reluctance. As she leaned over Charles to kiss him goodbye, I heard her whisper, a venomous hiss. "This isn't over." Charles, his eyes still closed in feigned exhaustion, gave no visible reaction. The next morning, Dr. Ellis returned, his face grim. "Mrs. Vance," he began, "the blood test results are back. There are significant levels of Digitalis in Charles's system, far beyond therapeutic levels for someone not prescribed it. This, combined with the evidence you provided, I'm afraid this points to attempted murder." My heart ached with a terrible vindication. "I know, doctor," I said, my voice steady, though my insides churned. "But I need more definitive proof, something irrefutable, to link it directly to Serena before I involve the police. Something to break through my son's denial." Dr. Ellis nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He promised to keep Charles under observation and to ensure his recovery, while discreetly continuing to monitor his levels. That afternoon, back at the house, I found Serena in the kitchen, engaged in a furious cleaning spree. Every surface gleamed, every pot was scrubbed. She was destroying evidence. "Serena," I said, leaning against the door frame, my voice deceptively casual. "That Dr. Morrison, the one who prescribed Charles's new medication, could you give me his number? Dr. Ellis wants to consult with him about Charles's current condition." Serena froze, a dish rag clutched in her hand. "Oh, Eleanor, I can't remember it offhand. It's in my phone somewhere. I'll look for it later." Her deflection was obvious, clumsy even. She couldn't provide a number for a doctor who didn't exist. My next move was swift and silent. While Serena was distracted, pretending to search for the imaginary doctor's number, I slipped upstairs. I knew she often used the guest room. On the nightstand, tucked beneath a stack of magazines, I found it. A burner phone, cheap and anonymous. My fingers, trembling with a mix of fear and triumph, unlocked it. The screen displayed a series of text messages between Serena and a contact simply labeled Martin. The messages were a horrifying chronicle of her plot. "How much longer?" read one. "The buyer is getting impatient. We need to finalize the $4 million transfer," another stated. "Eleanor is getting suspicious. Can you handle her if necessary?" was a particularly chilling query. The last message sent by Serena just hours ago chilled me to the bone. "Hospital visit was a setback. Need to accelerate timeline. Get everything ready." I photographed every incriminating message, ensuring each screenshot was clear and legible. Then, with careful precision, I replaced the burner phone exactly where I had found it. As I descended the stairs, I heard Serena's voice, speaking on her regular phone, the words floating up from the kitchen. "The plan is still good, Martin. He'll be home tomorrow. And then we finish this." The casual cruelty, the chilling certainty in her voice solidified my resolve. The charade was over. It was time to end this nightmare. The following morning, the oppressive weight of the nightmare began to lift. I arrived at the hospital not alone, but with Detective Olivia Rodriguez, a calm, observant woman whose presence filled me with a quiet strength. We found Charles looking remarkably better. The Digitalis, no longer being administered, was steadily flushing from his system, and the fog of confusion had begun to dissipate. The plan was meticulously reviewed. Charles would be discharged, we would return home, Serena would be waiting, police officers would be stationed discreetly outside, and I would be wearing a wire. Before Charles's discharge, I took Lucas aside, my heart pounding with a mixture of dread and grim determination. He looked tired, worried, but still so trusting. "Lucas," I began, my voice low, "there's something you need to see, something about Serena." I handed him Dr. Ellis's lab report, confirming the Digitalis poisoning. His brow furrowed in disbelief. "What is this, Mom? A lab error? Serena wouldn't... She loves Dad." His initial reaction was anger, a desperate clinging to the illusion he had built around his wife. Then I showed him the camera screenshots. Serena crushing pills, the vial of Digitalis, the medication swap. His face drained of color, his jaw slacked. Finally, I showed him the photographs of Serena's burner phone, the chilling text messages with Martin, discussing how much longer, the buyer, $4 million, and handling me if necessary. Lucas's eyes glazed over as he read the final damning messages. He collapsed into a nearby chair, his face contorted in horror and disbelief. "How long have you known, Mom?" he choked out, his voice a raw whisper. "Why didn't you tell me?" "We were afraid, Lucas. I said, my voice heavy with pain. Afraid you wouldn't believe us. You defended her so fiercely. His head fell into his hands, racked with guilt. I brought her into our family. This is my fault. I knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. No, Lucas, this is not your fault. Serena is a professional manipulator. She fooled all of us, but especially you. You loved her. We arrived home to a scene of theatrical domesticity. Serena, her smile wide and artificial, had orchestrated a fake homecoming celebration. Charles's favorite meal was laid out on the table. A vase of fresh flowers adorned the centerpiece, and a hastily made "Welcome home, Charles" banner hung askew over the fireplace. Lucas, his face a mask of profound disgust, forced himself to play his part, greeting Serena with a strained nod. "Oh, Charles, darling," Serena cooed, rushing to his side. "You must be starving. And I have your new supplements from Dr. Morrison. They'll help you recover so much faster." Well, she presented him with two small white pills, identical to the ones she had substituted earlier. Charles, ever composed, took the pills, examining them. "Thank you, Serena," he said, his voice flat. "But I think I'll wait to speak to Dr. Ellis first, just to be sure." Serena's mask slipped. A flash of irritation, almost panic, crossed her features. "But Charles, Dr. Morrison said they were essential for your recovery." I seized the opening. "Actually, Serena," I interjected, my voice clear and firm, "I'd love to meet Dr. Morrison myself. Perhaps he could explain his unusual prescribing practices to Dr. Ellis." Lucas, his gaze now steely, chimed in. "Yes, Serena, what's Dr. James Morrison's full name? I'd like to look him up online, find his clinic details." Serena's sweet expression vanished completely, replaced by a cold, hard glare. She knew. "I don't know what you people think you're playing at," she sneered, her voice venomous. "But you're making a big mistake." Lucas's reply was delivered with chilling clarity. "The only mistake was trusting you." Serena's eyes darted frantically around the room, then landed on her burner phone, which she pulled out of her pocket. Her fingers flew across the keypad. "We have a problem," she hissed into the phone. "They know." That was my signal. I pressed the panic button I had discreetly taped to my wrist. Within seconds, the front door burst open, and Detective Rodriguez, flanked by two uniformed officers, entered the living room. "Serena Williams," Detective Rodriguez announced, her voice calm and authoritative. "You're under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit fraud." Serena let out a guttural snarl, her eyes blazing with fury as the officers cuffed her. She turned to Lucas, her face contorted in a final desperate threat. "Martin won't let this go, Lucas. He knows where you live." Detective Rodriguez met her gaze, her expression unperturbed. "Martin Hendris is already in custody, Ms. Williams," she stated calmly, "based on the evidence Mrs. Peterson provided." A wave of overwhelming relief washed over me, so profound it almost brought me to my knees. The nightmare was truly over. 3 months later, the scars were still there, but life had begun to bloom anew. Charles's health had almost fully recovered, his mind as sharp as ever, a testament to his resilience and our timely intervention. We were at our beloved Austin Lake House, the sun sparkling on the water, a world away from the darkness we had endured. Lucas had filed for divorce, a painful but necessary step. The subsequent investigation revealed that Serena and Martin Hendris, a con artist she had been involved with for years, had run similar inheritance scams in 3 different states, preying on vulnerable elderly individuals. Justice, though slow, was being served. "Do you ever regret it, Eleanor?" Charles asked one evening as we watched the sunset over the lake. Fighting back, I reflected on the difficult months, the fear, the deception, the emotional toll. "Never," I affirmed, pressing his hand. "We fought for our life together, my love, and we won." We spoke of future plans, travel, art classes, all the books we'd postponed, everything we never had time for before, I whispered. A promise of new beginnings. A year later, we renewed our vows at the lake house, a celebration of resilience, love, and a renewed future. Lucas, his face finally free of shadows, walked me down the aisle, his pride evident, and Martha, our loyal Martha, caught the bouquet, her laughter echoing across the water. I realized then that I was no longer the woman who would accept betrayal in the name of family harmony. I had fought for what truly mattered. Our love, our life, our truth. Charles whispered, "Thank you for saving my life." I smiled, tears blurring my vision. "Thank you for saving mine." We danced under the stars, knowing our best years were not behind us, but brightly ahead. The nightmare was over. The dream finally was beginning.